In this video, just going to show you how you can build a notification system or notification notice for the website. And it's quite easy. I have a notification. I'll head over here to my options page. This is set up using Advanced Custom Fields Pro and Advanced Custom Fields Extended. Then what I'm going to do is just add a new notification. So we're going to call this new notification. Then what I'm going to do is move the start date before today, the end date after today, and then the color, let's go with the green, and then let's add a link. So we'll just head over to the website, and I'm just going to copy any link, pop that in there, and update. And now you'll see that when we refresh the page, you'll see that that notification is visible. If I want the green notification above the black, I can then just head over to my notifications. I'm going to move the green one above the black one. We're going to update. And then when we have a look on the website, you'll see that the green notification is now above the black notification. And in a similar way then, if I don't want the black notification to show, I'm going to change the date to a date after today. Update. And now you'll see that that notification is no longer visible. So it's a pretty simple setup. And just to show you what that looks like inside Oxygen, here we have the section at the top of the page. Now the section is conditional. So if I was, for example, to remove, or let's say not remove, but let's just say move the date to after the current date, and then I was to refresh, you'll see that there's nothing displayed and the header moves to the top of the page as normal. So what I've done there for the conditions is I've added a section. I haven't attached any conditions to the section. So if I go into advanced, you'll see I've set the size and spacing as follows: the container padding to 0 and the section container width to full width. But I've attached all the conditions to the repeater, and the repeater then has a look at this repeater within Advanced Custom Fields, which contains the notification. And basically what we do then is we attach the conditions to that repeater, and basically what we're saying is that if the start date is after today's date and the end date is before today's date, then show the notification. That isn't actually needed there. And that's pretty much how the condition is set, and that is done by the date. You'll also notice that depending on my selection, I have a different background for the different notifications. And what I've done there is I've created a class, one with the green background, white text, black background, white text, and also a red background with white text. And that can be applied then using a conditional element. So if I go to the div and I go to advanced, you'll see that I have dynamic classes. Now these dynamic classes I've added using Oxy Extras. So not Oxy Extras, Hydrogen Pack for Oxygen, and inside Hydrogen Pack you can add dynamic classes, which is what I've done. And so I've set that dynamic class using the Hydrogen Pack. So if we look then at the custom fields, so let's have a look at that field group. And inside the website notification, then you'll see that we have this repeater, and inside the repeater we have the notification, the date start, the date end, the color, and then the link URL. So the color now just contains the name of the class. So those are the three classes that I created, and that is the selector that you see on the front end. So depending on your selection there, that will then choose the relevant class. And to see how those classes are set up, I'm going to go over here to my selectors under manage, and you'll see here that I created a folder called notifications, and inside that I have my classes. So I have the black back white text, and then I also have the black back white text link with the A. And the reason for that is that if we don't have that class in, the text will default to the website default, which is a blue, and then it's not very visible in the notification. So to show you how that would work, if I just take this one with a black background and I was to update that, so just to make sure that it's visible, right there we have our notification. Now if I didn't have this class like that, so what I'm going to do, I'm not going to delete it, I'm just going to change the color. So we'll just remove it. So now that will in fact render the default color, and you'll see that the color changes then to the website default, which is that blue. So unless you want that color, then create a class then. Right, so that's what we've done, and what I'm going to do now is just show you how to set that up and to implement that on the website. So the first thing that I'm going to do in this video then is I'm going to delete that section. So let's head over to the structure, and I'm going to delete that section. Right, and then we're going to add a new section and start from fresh. So we're going to add a section, and in that section then we're going to move that to the top. So I'm in the main template. So I'm in the main template of Oxygen, and I'm working on the header section, and what I'm going to do now is just add that section to the header. So the first thing I do, I head over to advanced, size and spacing I set to 0, and then what I do is I say full width on the page width, and I save that. Next thing that I need to do then, of course, is set up some custom fields. So let's create a new field group. So I'm going to add a new field group here, and we're going to call that header notifications, and then I'm going to add a repeater field. So we add the repeater, and then inside the repeater we're going to add a couple of fields. So let's start with the notification, and I'm just going to prefix with a word that just to differentiate from the previous. So that's the notification, and then we're going to have the start date, and that'll be a date picker. Let's just go to date picker, the start date, then we have the end date. Right, and then we're going to have the link. So we'll call that the link, and that'll be a URL. And the last one that we need then is the colors. So we'll call that the colors. Right, so there we have our custom field setup, and this is going to be a select. So we could also make it a radio button. In this case, we're just going to leave it as a select. And then here we have the various choices. So let's go with the green, and I'll just call that green. Then the black, make that black, and then the red, and we'll just call that red. And then what I'll do here is, and I'll just make that a background so that we know that black background, green background, red background. So there we have the green, the black, the red, and the first option will be the default, so we'll just leave it in that order. So that we've created our custom fields, so we'll publish that. What we do need to do is add an options page. So we do have this website header notifications here. So I'm going to go to my option pages, and this is using advanced custom fields extended, and what I'm going to do is just trash that one. Right, and let's add a new one, and the new one we'll just call it the notifications. I've got to enter a menu slug, so try and make it something unique. the notifications. What I'm going to do, the rest we can leave as is. The only other thing that I'm going to change is where the position fits into the menu. So if I was to publish this as it is, the notifications, you'll see that the notifications would be added, but they would be added right at the bottom here. Now I'd like it nearer the top, so I'm going to make that position 12, hit enter, and now you'll see that the notifications appear higher up here on the left hand side. So that's great. So there we have the notifications, and now I'm just going to go back to my field groups, and I'm going to assign my header notifications to that options page. So we'll go to the field group, and then we're going to say options page and say that the options page is equal to the notifications and update. Right, now when I go to the notifications, you'll actually see that we have the option here, and you'll see here it says add row. I'm not a fan when it says add row, so let's change that to add notification. So I'm just going to go into my field group, and then instead of saying add row, we're going to say add new. So that will add then the new notification, and we'll update. And now when we refresh, you'll see that it will say add new notification. Right, so let's do exactly that, and you'll see here that it's in these columns, and that's really not going to be fun to work with. So what I'm going to do then is go into my repeater, and I'm going to change the layout to row. We'll update. And now when we want to work, everything will be nice and neatly laid out in rows, which makes it a lot quicker and a lot easier. So this is the new notification. Okay, let's take a start date before today and an end date after today. Let's add a link. So I'm just going to go to the website. I'll just keep up with this link. I'm going to pop in the link there, and then the colors, we're just going to go with the default green background and update. Of course, nothing to see on the website at the moment because we haven't made any changes. So you'll see nothing to see. And now what I'm going to do is I'm already in the main template. So what I'm going to do is just refresh. And when that refreshes, you're going to see that the advanced custom fields will then be available to me inside the template. The other thing, yeah, so that's all that we need to do now is just wait for Oxygen to load. So Oxygen loading. Oxygen loaded, let's head over to the structure, and you'll see there's the section that we created earlier. Of course, there's no content, so the first thing we need to do then is add a repeater. So we'll go to helpers, head over to repeater. First thing we'll do is go to the query and say use advanced custom field query, and we're going to go with the notifications. And we'll add the query parameters. We'll just then expand our structure panel here, and inside there we're just going to add some text. Go to basics, text, and then what we'll do is we'll just get some dynamic data for that. So when I say insert data, I'm going to go to repeater field, and I'm going to select the notification, and we'll insert that. What I'm also going to do straight away is head over to the section and make sure everything is aligned in the center, and in that div also make sure that alignment is in the center. So now we have our notification appearing at the top in the center. So the reason why we created one initially is just so that we would be able to see something while we're working inside Oxygen. Next thing we're going to do now is add a condition. So to the div here we're going to add the condition, and that condition is going to be the date, and the date is after the start date, so after the repeater field. We've only put in an end date. Okay, so we need to add a start date. So what we can do is just go back again. So the date, let's change that to is before, and repeater field is the end date, and we'll insert that. Then what we'll do to add the link is we'll go to the text and we'll add a link to just to the text, not to the whole section at the top. And for the data there, we'll go to the repeater field and we're going to add the link. And we'll insert that. And then for the color of the section, I'm going to go to the div. And then I'm going to go to advanced. And I'm going to go to dynamic classes. This is, of course, added via hydrogen pack. Add a dynamic class. We're going to say data again. Then I'm going to select that repeater field, which is the colors. We'll insert that. And now we have that dynamic field attached. The other thing that I can do quickly in the meantime then is if I go to my advanced custom fields, we do have an end date for the advanced custom field. So let's just have a look and see why that isn't pulling through. So let's just have a look here. Go to the conditions. Date is before. So when I go to the repeater, I just needed to scroll. Okay, so just bear that in mind. So the date, and the other condition is that the date is after the repeater field, the start date. Right. So there we have our conditions. Just one thing to take note of that we haven't set yet is that when the value of the date is returned, we need to have a look and see what the correct return value would be for that date to work. So at the moment I'm going to leave everything at the default and save. And what I'm also going to do then is just head over here, set the condition is set, and just say show hide based on conditions. Right, so there we have that showing. And what I'm also going to do now is go and create those selectors. So now I'm going to go manage and selectors, and I'm going to add a selector. Maybe the first thing I'm going to do then is add a folder, and that folder will be we'll call it the notifications. No spaces allowed, so let's add a new folder and call it the underscore notifications. Right, so there we have the notifications, and now we're going to add some classes to that, some selectors. So we add a selector, and if we have a look at our custom fields, we want to make sure that our selectors are the same. So I'm going to head over to the custom fields, the header notifications, and then we're just going to look at our repeater, make sure we have the right colors, and basically we've said the green, the black, the red. So now what I'm going to do is add those selectors. So add selector dot, and it's important to include the dot so that the selector is a class. If it had a hashtag, it would be an ID. So the green, so we add the green, and now you'll see that it's not appearing in my folder that I wanted, the notification. So then over here, right, so if I look at this, so for some reason adding it here now is not allowing me to select the notifications that I created earlier. So let me add the underscore A. Let's do that. Right, so now we have the notifications underscore A, and that is working. We'll add another selector dot the black. We'll add that, and once again we need to select the folder, and then so that's the green, the black. Now we need to add the red. Add selector dot right, and now we also need to add the A selectors. So what I'm going to do is just, now if you do this and it doesn't move, then just select the folder, go back to the class, and then you'll be able to move it around. So there we have the item now. We've got the green, the black, and the red. Now what I'm going to do is add the A class. So what I do then is just copy that and add selector A, and then let's do the same thing for the red. Add selector the red, and then we'll add another selector. So we've got the green, the red, and now we need the black. Right, and we just want to move these around. So let's move these then to the right place. Right, so now we've got our selectors in the folder nicely grouped together. And what we can do now is just start adding the color. So we go to advanced, we go to background, and the background color in this case we're going to make kind of a deeper red than the psychedelic red, so something like that. And then we go to the black, so the black we'll make black, and then the red we'll just make red. And then the green A, we need to do the typography there. We'll just do the color of white. The red A color, we'll just also make that white. And then the black A, let's just make that white. Okay, and then what we also want to do is add some spacing. So go back to the green selector and size and spacing, and that'll just give it a nice bit of padding inside that div. Right, and then the red. So you'll see that as I go through each one, the item on the left here stays the same, so it's quite quick to update. So now we've done those updates. So if I look at the website now, we have added a notification. Then we should be seeing something on the front end. So let's just go and have a look now at the notifications. We've added a notification. So the reason why it's not showing is because the return date is not correct. So what we're going to do now is go into our advanced custom fields. We're going to head over to the start date, and we need to just make sure that the return date is correct. So what we're going to do is day, month, and a capital Y. And the end date, the return value is going to be day-month-year. If I remember correctly, that will be the correct format. And now when we refresh, there we have our notification. And what I'm going to do now is just check that the colors work. So that's the green background. We'll update the black background. Right, and we'll do the red background. Right, so that's working, and you'll see that the color is in, and of course if we click on the link, it is going to take us through to the right place. Now what we want to do is make sure that the date range is working. So I'm going to move the date now to ahead of today, and we're going to update the fields. And now when we refresh, you'll see that there's nothing to see. And just to check it for an error, I'm going to move the end date to before the start date, and just to make sure that our condition is actually working. So it looks like our condition is working. So if the dates are not in the correct sequence, it won't work. And then I'm just going to update that again and refresh, and our notification will be back. If I wanted 2 notifications, just another one, the start date, the end date. So the nice thing now is that you're able to set up notifications for the whole year, and you can do that. Let's just make that in one place, all your background set up. So the first one was the red background. Let's make this the black one. And now when we refresh, you'll see that we have the two notifications appearing. So there we've set up the notifications. If you want to make your notification area a bit nicer, maybe you wanted to actually include a button and attach the link to the button, you could quite easily do that as well. So what we would then do is head over here to the structure panel, and inside the div we would add a button. So let's go here to a button, and what we need to do is just change the div layout to horizontal, and let's just set our div width to 100% and make sure that everything is centered. And then what we want to do is just add a bit of space between the items. So what we'll do there is we will just head over to the text element, and I'm just going to add a bit of padding there. So there we have the padding, and then over here what I'm going to do is I'm going to just assign the link. So the link here is going to be the repeater field, and that repeater field will be the link. Insert. So that will then be added to that repeater. So now when we have a look, you'll see that we actually have a button, but maybe we don't want the button to appear if there's no data. So then we'll add a condition to the button, and that will be just to say, and here we're going to go to dynamic data, we're going to go to the repeater field, and we're going to say the link, insert, and we're just going to say is not blank. So if it's not blank, it will show. If it's blank, it won't show. And to test that, what I'm going to do is just come in here and remove the link on the red background. We'll update that, and now you'll see that it doesn't show if there isn't a link. So that's one way where you could quite easily then add a button to show if you have a link, or not to show if you don't have a link. So that's just a very quick and easy way then to add a notification system to your website. If you wanted the notification to appear permanently as you scroll, then quite easily then it would then be a case of going to that section, advanced layout, and then just setting the position to fixed and save. Then when we refresh and we scroll, the notifications remain at the top of the page. And as you can see, we do need to just set a Z index there. Let's make that 10. And let's see if that's enough. May not be. So there we go. So it is enough. So there, now what we do is now we have our notification, but the problem with that then is it's going to be on top of the header. So not a great idea. If you want a permanent notification, maybe the better way of doing it is to leave it on fixed but move it to 0, and then that will be displayed at the bottom of the page. So then we refresh, and now the notification is at the bottom of the page. So in this case, fortunately, it's not covering any important information in the footer, but that's pretty much how you can then create your notification and move it around as you need on your page, and also then have elements that appear or not depending on the conditions set inside Oxygen Builder. So yeah, that's how you can set up conditions using Advanced Custom Fields Extended, and Oxygen Builder, and then using Hydrogen Builder to set the dynamic CSS. So if we go to the Hydrogen pack and we go to the settings, you'll see that there are dynamic classes, and that just has to be enabled in order for it to work. It's not activated by default. Right, well, I hope you enjoyed that video, and thank you for watching.